And you got
Yep.
Cajun fans that are the craziest people in America on a college football Saturday. I'm
Yep.
a Georgia Bulldog fan. My mom went to Auburn University. I've got buddies that are Florida Gator fans, whatever. I've seen crazy college football. There's nowhere more insane than Louisiana State University.
I'ma come a little different. But I tell them, free real start federal. Hey, let's get it. Let go, let go,
All
let
right,
go.
well, so unsweetened tea, it feels sacrilegious for me to even say unsweet tea because it's that terrible. But I'm gonna talk a little bit about this new thing with the college conference naming rights and private equity. I understand the reasoning and I understand the argument of why it is being done. The commissioner, Yormark from the Big 12, he said, listen, we're not going to get the same TV deal that the Big 10 and the SEC and ACC are going to get. We're not going to get the same level of member school XYZ. But when they have their spring meeting a couple of days or weeks ago in Dallas, he gets in there and the number one thing he puts on the board is revenue generation. They got to maximize the assets they got. And when
Yep.
Allstate pulls up and says they're going to give you $900 million, give or take a few hundred million, you got to listen. That's if you're trying to compete with the big dog and ESPN ain't going to give you the same check, well, Allstate bring me that check. So I understand the reasoning. I think you and I completely are going to agree on this part. Yeah, I say this, I know it's not feasible or, realistic. There's got to be a threshold where integrity and tradition pushes back on the dollar sign. That's just the Chase Beckham growing up watching college football when there's not a logo on the daggum court or the field. I'm
Yeah.
thinking, man, I'm gonna go try to play college football 32 and it's gonna look like a NASCAR video game because there's so many sponsorships everywhere. You know,
Bro, you gonna have a freaking Bojangles logo on the football
that's
field.
what I'm saying.
Sanford Stadium gonna have Raising Cane's as the logo.
Dadgum. I'm like, our players gonna have Starbucks on their socks when they're running in. I'm like, what are we?
Huh,
Where is the line? And I know that the line is
that's
not
fair.
going to be drawn because the only line they're thinking about is the one on the checkbook. So, and I understand, it's a business. It's odd for me when people truly think it's realistic for somebody in a business position to make a traditional decision. If you're sitting in an office, you can't worry about not integrity. You can't sit there and worry about, oh, well, back in the day, no, back in the day
Yeah.
ain't paying the
Yeah.
bill. Players ain't, a majority of athletes, they're not going to school because, oh man, back in the 90s, man, this was running back you. No, they're going because
Uh,
it's a car dealership across the street that's got a daggum Range Rover with their name on the back. And we neither one of us, Dave, were blessed to be Division I athletes. Luckily we're going to
oh,
in a couple years later as a professional. But
yeah.
if I'm a 17-year-old kid and I can run and jump faster than everybody in my town, I'm hopping in their biggest Range Rover. So I understand the arguments, but I think we agree the unsweet part about it is, man, I don't want it to be the all-state 12 league. That's no, like I'm not,
No,
but what do we know? They're not calling us about
no,
sponsorships yet. So,
no, I'm with you, bro. I'm with you. Starbucks on the socks, Bojangles on the field,
Right.
freaking
What are we
McDonald's
doing?
on the helmets.
That's what I'm
We're
saying.
gonna have
So, we're gonna have
everything.
pressed 3D white mouthpieces. Like what? This is about to be.
Bro, why is that a hard idea though?
That is. I
Why
know.
is
That's why we get paid to do this, Davo, because we have good ideas. But I don't want to have those ideas. But
hey,
here we are.
hey, get your Crest 3D white strips
Yeah,
now.
get your thrust. That's
Then you
exactly.
already know Caleb Williams gonna be wearing it,
So Caleb
even though
Williams
he's
need to
in the
worry about a
NFL.
completion before he worry about some teeth, man.
Some Crest
I'm
3D white strips.
man.
Change
He
your
needs
life.
he needs a Crest TD white strip because he ain't having a lot of success in these OTAs, man.
You said Crest 3D white.
He ain't gonna have many of those either, I don't think. But
Me, bro. Me.
All right, for the next segment, we call it comments from the comments. Pretty self-explanatory. A lot of people, all the homies, friends, anybody You can comment on our Instagram at Davo Chabo Podcast. And you can comment a question or a comment that you want us to address in this episode. So we've picked 3 comments. It's not our 3 favorite. It's not 3 anything. It's 3 random comments we picked from the pool. If your comment was really good and we're not answering it today, it'll be answered in a future episode. All the questions were really,
Don't
really
you
good.
worry.
So we just random picked 3 of them. The first one we're going to get into is from my boy Carter Norman. Freshman year, I'm with my, junior and senior year college roommate, and I'm answering a question from my freshman year roommate. So this is a special little moment. Carter's question was, can a team win a championship with Trae Young as the star? You answer this first, Dave.
Carter, great question. I'll give you 100% answer. No.
No.
And oh,
Nope.
hey,
No.
hey, you know what Skip Bayless calls him? Mice Trae.
Mice Trae. Ooh,
Mice
that's
Trae.
hurtful.
Look, I don't think Trae Young's a horrible basketball player. I think he's got a lot of skill.
He is a star. That's the whole point. He is a star.
But the Atlanta Hawks might be the dumbest NBA team ever to think, let's take our draft pick that could get Luka Doncic, who's, by the way, in the finals right now with Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington.
Yeah.
And let's take Trae Young.
Yeah.
People thought he was going to be Steph Curry.
All right. And
No.
And I'm not gonna lie. I'm not here. I'll say this real quick. Trae, I like Trae more than the average media analyst person, whatever. Not that I'm a media analyst person, but for the sake of topic.
Yeah.
But and you'll agree with this, what I'm about to say, but I still just want to say it. Trae Young is a star. Don't get me wrong. I love Trae Young. Great.
Yeah.
And like you made the Curry, or people used to make the Curry comparison. They can both shoot it from the same distance. Now, can Trae get
Not
that
the
shot
same rate.
off with Kyrie in his chest in the NBA Finals? I don't think so. There's a reason, he's not on that level yet, or will be. But Trae just has too many holes in his game. That's all it is. If you're going to be in this NBA with the amount of talent and the amount of coverage and the amount of everything, if you're going to be a leader on a championship, if you're going to be the leader, like Carter said in the question, on a championship franchise, you can't have a lot of holes in your game. Joel Embiid, the skill wise, I don't have a hole in his game. And where's he at? Sitting at the broadcast table the other night. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, there's a lot. I mean, Nikola Jokic is one of the most fascinating players to ever touch a basketball court. And he's back in Europe right now with his horses. So there's guys that are miles ahead of Trae Young that still aren't at the top of the mountain. So Trae Young now could, if he gets traded here, if Trae Young goes to LA next year and the basketball gods finally love the Lakers again, yeah, he can be on a team, but he can't
for
be
sure.
the guy. He's not going to be the guy on a 2020 NBA championship team.
Yeah, and I'll say this: I thought the Skip Bayless thing was funny.
Right,
Trae. Not that you're going to see this video ever, probably, but he's a good basketball player. I just retweet what you said. I don't see him leading a team
no.
to a championship.
Mm-mm.
With a guy like LeBron. Sure, I think he'd be a great piece to have. But we talk about Luka being a defensive liability. I mean, Trae Young can't even really help it. Like,
man,
just post him up, and
right. Well, that's the thing, bro. If you put like Luka is a defensive liability, and they're down 3, they were down 3-0. They're down 3-1, and he's 6'8", with teammates that are, Kyrie Irving. Shout out Kyrie Irving. But it's like if you switch Luka and Trae right now, Trae is a defensive liability that's not really fixable. You like to be a 6'2", however tall he is, 6'3", NBA guy with that frame, to be a good defender in the league with that frame, you got to be a dog at 13 years old defensively. Trae Young is one of those things where I don't think Trae Young will ever be a defensive guy. I think as long as he's in the NBA, he'll always be the guy that you target offensively. So So yeah, I don't. Carter, good question. I know you got that ATL
It is a
bias.
good question.
That's a question that should be asked. I think the Hawks need to ask themselves that question if they already haven't, on what are we going to do? Because why are we putting all the eggs in the basket that's not even going to get us to the top of the mountain? I'm interested to see what they do with that number one pick this month. I really, really hope they don't take anybody number one and get rid of that pick, because I saw he's a French guy, I believe, and they compared him to Harrison Barnes, projected number one pick. Comparison, Harrison Barnes, bro. I love Harrison Barnes, but it's Harrison Barnes. I mean, yeah. So, at ATL, get rid of that number one pick, figure out what Trae Young needs to do for you, or whatever. But good question, Carter. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Well,
So,
that is going to funnel into the question we'll touch on after this next question, because I do want to mix it up a little bit. We've been talking a ton of NBA. My boy Brendan Henshaw came with such a good question, and it's this: which school has benefited the most from conference realignment? I'll let you answer first.
it's a good question.
But that's a loaded question.
It is a good question, and he commented it really recently. So I did my limited, research brainstorming on my answer. So there may be one I'm not thinking of, but the first name or team that came to my mind is the Washington Huskies. I say Washington because were they in the national championship last year? Absolutely. Do people know about the Washington brand? Absolutely. But they're about to go to the next level. I mean, they have they're benefiting financially if they win a game or not. But to go from the Pac-12, where if you ask the average college football fan, they can't name you a lot of Washington Huskies pre-Penix, maybe Jacob Eason, whatever. They can't name you a lot of guys from that brand and that culture. They're going from the corner of the Pac-12, where they haven't been a powerhouse consistently at all, and they're about to pack up and go to the Big Ten. And they're going to play Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon, all these guys every week. I mean, they are benefiting just from a sheer level standpoint. It's one thing if you want to say like Cincinnati, going from a group of five to a power five with all the talent they have and, culture, that's one thing. But they're going from the middle level to the second half of the top level, so there's still a benefit. But Washington is going from Pac-12, respectable, to the biggest stage in college athletics. I mean, SEC, Big Ten, we're Southern boys, SEC all the way. But the Big Ten is on them heels, and so
it is. Yeah.
I think Washington, they're going to benefit financially. That's the objective way to measure a benefit, I suppose. But they're about to go from a solid level to the brightest light in American college sports overnight. And before I finish, you could say Oregon for the same reason, but in my Oregon's brand and Oregon's financial situation has been leaps and bounds ahead of Washington forever. So it's like they're stepping up competition level, but their brand and their level, they've just been an outlier conference wise at the top level in my mind. But Washington is going from just a solid Pac-12 organization, whatever, to the brightest light in college athletics. So I think they're getting benefit may not be the word. It may be opportunity, but they're about to go to they've got one of the biggest opportunities to capitalize and maximize their university than any school in the country, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I like that answer. I'm curious to see recruiting wise how Washington will fare with,
right.
I'm not going to say Ohio State and Michigan because I think those two obviously are on their own tier in the Big Ten. But the Penn States of the world, like who wins those battles when you're trying to go for a really solid recruit? I'm curious to know, are guys going to be leaning towards Washington or do they want Penn State?
Right.
For me, to answer the question, I'm going to go SEC and I'm going to say Texas.
Okay.
I think there's been a lot of noise with when all this conference realignment stuff was announced. I heard a lot of SEC fans specifically start to dog Texas, and it was a lot of they're about to be woken up to the big boys of college football, all this stuff. Well, I think two things change that narrative. The first one is the greatest college football coach of all time is no longer in the SEC.
Yep.
Nick Saban retiring is huge because Alabama, they're still going to be good. I mean, we haven't seen what Kalen DeBoer will do, so I don't want to act like they're just going to drop off because they might still be really good. But Texas was just in the college football playoff. You got Quinn Ewers for another year. You have a great head coach and Steve Sarkisian. I think Texas is going to be the biggest recruiting power in the SEC outside of Georgia. Because teams, I don't know that Alabama, again, will stay at the very top for very long. Texas is already solidified. And now you put them in the SEC where, to me, they belong in the first place. The Big 12 was a weird conference for Texas.
Right.
When you think about Texas football, they remind me of an SEC team. I mean, geographically, even.
Right.
I like to consider them part of the Southeast to a degree.
Well, yeah. Well, there's a lot of talent in Texas. We'll claim them for sure.
Well, there's a lot of talent in Texas, but there's a ton of talent here in Georgia.
Oh, absolutely.
I say here in Georgia, like I'm not in Montana right now.
But yeah, you in Georgia in the mind. I got you.
But I think Texas is going to be able to recruit in the South even better than they already have been now that they're in the SEC, and that's scary.
Yeah.
I think Texas, it's going to be Texas and Georgia to me leading the SEC. I really think it's going to be what you saw in Georgia and Alabama. Now you just flip it to Georgia and Texas because I think they're going to recruit better than everybody outside of Kirby Smart and the UGA.
Right. And I think a lot of Alabama Crimson Tide fans' fists just got a little tighter when you said that, David. They don't want to be musical chairs with the Longhorns, man. They don't.
No.
So, I mean, I'll say it like this because I like that answer. Texas, how do I want to put it? Washington, I'll go back to my answer. Washington is about to try and build a mansion on a above average Pac-12 foundation. Texas is about to build an SEC mansion or attempt to on arguably the biggest foundation in college athletics. So that's where I think I'm fully aware, or I'm fully agreeing that Texas has the best shot to have the smoothest transition to a bigger conference, because they've had the foundation for a decade. You know what I'm saying? So I love that answer. Texas is, they're benefiting because they're finally getting the shot that they've earned for years. They're
exactly.
They're about to get on the biggest stage of college athletics, and they've had the foundation and the money and the recruitment and the coaching and the tradition. Boom. It's a top 5 college football culture in the country, and now you're about to join the top tradition football conference in the country. So yeah, it's a match made in college athletics heaven. So yeah, I like that take.
Yeah. All right. Our last question. This is another really good one.
Right.
And it's back to the NBA. It's who is the best number 1 draft pick in the NBA over the past 10 years?
Yeah.
I mean,
Me.
Obviously, I got it pulled up now.
Yeah, there's a clear 3, I think, in the past 10 that are like in a tier of their own for this conversation, and I think those 3. Tell me if you agree in chronological order. I'd say Zion Williamson, I'd say Anthony Edwards, and I go Victor Wembanyama. I want to say that's
so you're saying you're saying Wemby's the 3rd best?
No. I'm saying just in like draft order. I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think just like in the order they were selected. But I think my order for the best player is probably reversed that. I think Wembanyama is the best pick in the past 10.
I agree.
And San Antonio doesn't get a lick of credit for that either. You know what I'm saying? Like certain, I mean, honestly, all 3 of these teams have, had easy selections to a degree, So I think Wembanyama, man, it's just, the way he's regarded after year 1. I mean, during year 1, the way he's regarded is just already at a crazy level. His talent is undeniable. He's a guy that in 3 years I might be talking about him like I am Embiid. Where's the hole in his game? I mean, I love Wembanyama. He's another kind of like I talked about Luka, but in a different way. That 2024 archetype, that unicorn archetype. He's 7'4", 7'3",
Yeah,
whatever. I
something
mean,
like
he can do everything on the court. I mean, so and he can do everything at a great level, and he's not. And another thing is too with Wembanyama is you can have every skill in the world. If you don't have that mentality, it don't matter. Wembanyama has every skill on the court, and he's got a professional elite mind as well. He's not backing down from nobody. And so that I love that about Wembanyama. That's a guy that's just an objective number one guy. Um,
yeah, yeah.
so to answer the question, the Wembanyama will be my pick. I think Anthony Edwards is obviously a respectable second choice. Zion's durability, kind of knocks him out of that top one or two. But I love Zion. Kentucky fan, but guys like Zion, you got to respect no matter what. But you say I'm gonna go Wembanyama. You probably agree, but I'm gonna let you have the floor.
Yeah, it's funny, bro. I mean, like, I feel like we've agreed a lot more than maybe we expected.
No, yeah,
Um, but if Zion was healthy, like if there's not a durability question, my pick would be Zion.
Ooh,
But I mean, I agree. I think Wemby, he's too unique, and
yeah.
there's way too much potential
Hmm.
to neglect. Like, I don't love Victor Wembanyama at the moment, like as a basketball player, but I also know that he does have the tools, and once he figures out how to utilize them
Yep.
consistently in the NBA,
Right.
I mean, you can't stop a 7'4" dude
No.
that can put the ball on the court, that can post you up, which I haven't seen much of, and that's really the area where I want to see him grow is in the post
Right.
game. But he's too fucking unique, bro. It's like
Well,
it's
and
like
that's
Giannis, but more talented
yeah.
and skinnier, of course. But
Right. Well, I think when prospects or just guys in general, when they're really, really, really phenomenal, is when you can't compare their game to one person. You can look
yeah,
at Anthony Edwards and be like, oh my gosh, like I see a lot of Tracy McGrady and Ant-Man. You can look at Zion and say, oh, da, 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 that's some Charles Barkley-esque. That's da 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 da. You look at Wembanyama, you got to have a comparison for every attribute. You know what I'm saying? I
yeah,
mean, like, oh, he's got the defensive, like da da da. He's got the, he can jump shoot, like he's got a form, like he can overshoot like Kevin Durant. Oh, he can handle da da. He's got shot blocking ability like Gobert. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
when you're really, like you said, he's a unique prospect, and it's proven he's unique because every single part of his game has to have a different comparison because it's that dynamic.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I mean,
No, that's a good
and
point.
when you think, I don't think he played all 82 games or whatever this year, but when you think about it,
No,
he got the tools and he will figure it out because he's already came so far and he's played in 60 some games.
yeah.
60 some NBA games is nothing when we're talking about a, upper echelon of guys. So, Wembanyama's my pick. I like the what you said argument about Zion. I love Zion. Ant-Man stepped into the scene this playoffs and forced himself in that conversation. So it's it's a solid top three, but Wembanyama is just such a undeniable number one guy in whatever conversation you really want to have.
I I will say this to wrap it up. There is see because for me when I say Wemby, a lot of it is assuming. It's like, oh
Right.
man, if he gets better at this, like
Mm.
if he finds a way to do this, Anthony Edwards, on the other hand, is already doing it. Now, he's also had an extra year,
Right.
but I think Edwards is kind of like maybe the safer pick in a sense of like he's going to be cold for the next at least the next 10 years,
Right.
assuming nothing bizarre happens.
Right.
God forbid. What with Wembanyama, I do think there is potential to where I don't think he'll ever be bad or like, oh, he's a bust, but he might not pan out to be the
Right.
special, freak talent that everybody, obviously including us, has talked him up to be. So
Right.
I think it's a closer debate than maybe me and you had given,
Right.
but it's too hard to ignore what there could be with Wembanyama. Now, this question 3 years from now, I
Right.
think could be very, very, very different.
Right. Well, and that's the thing I would say just lastly about it with Wembanyama is if I have to go win an NBA playoff game tomorrow night and I'm picking and I can get one of these three guys, give
Yeah,
me
you're going. Yeah,
give me
yeah,
Ant-Man. But in the sake of if we're looking at it as a pick, like what's the best pick? Like who has a not the word isn't bet like bettable, but like who can you kind of surefire say is going to be the best prospect? Got to go Wemby. So for the sake
yeah,
of best
yeah.
pick, I'll go Wemby. But yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. If I got to win a game tomorrow night, give me
Yeah,
Ant-Man.
I'm picking the others. That's a great way to put it.
Right.
100%.
Cool. Good deal. Last segment we got, y'all, is going to be called High Five. And it's easy to understand. We're gonna debate, or not debate, but rank the top five something. So,
Yeah.
first top five, high five segment, episode 1, we're going, what college football team has the best football atmosphere? Great question. So, Dave,
Look, and this question, man, I cannot act like it was not inspired by the fact I'm really about to buy a PS5
yeah,
solely to play NCAA football 25.
there you go.
Like, and we're gonna have to talk about NCAA 25 on the next episode because
Absolutely.
when I tell you how excited, I can't put into words how excited I am for that game.
I know.
But I mean, this question is loaded because I mean, what makes college football so good is all the different atmospheres. I'm interested to see because I mean, we've talked about essentially every sport under the sun in any way you can, but I don't know that we've actually talked about college football atmospheres, like specifically
Right.
with this topic.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
I think this could be fun.
And the way and we can compile our list together to make like our top
Yeah.
five because I put down some schools. I didn't really order them out, but I've got 5 or 6 answers, but we'll compile and give our list.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we flesh it out and yeah.
Cool.
No, I agree.
Bet. All right, you want to go first or you want me to go first?
I mean, I don't necessarily have like a top 5.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, I think Death Valley,
Yeah.
Tiger Stadium is. I mean that's kind of like probably the most obvious one for people.
Yeah. And I mean, do you want to get into why you think Death Valley is Death Valley?
Yeah, I mean it's night games specifically there are insane. I've personally never been there, so I mean I guess take what I say with a grain of salt to a degree, but man, that place, it's just something different. Like to me the aesthetic is beautiful, but the fans are absurd,
insane. That's where I think the Tiger Stadium and LSU culture in general is perfect for college athletics. It's just the blending of everything. I've got a ton of family friends in Louisiana, diehard Tiger fans, so I've seen it through people. I've been to Tiger Stadium, not on a game day. I've been to Tiger Stadium. I think it's just a blend of everything. I mean, you think a night game in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, it don't matter if the sun's down. It's 95 degrees in that stadium. And you got Cajun fans that are the craziest people in America on a college football Saturday. I'm a Georgia Bulldog fan. My mom went to Auburn University. I mean, I've got buddies that are Florida Gator fans, whatever. I've seen crazy college football. There's nowhere more insane than Louisiana State University. So that's where I think it's just a blending, the Cajun culture, the insane weather that opponents are not used to unless you're from Mississippi. So it's just a blending of all that. It seats 102,000 people. I mean, I read something that it's now called Death Valley. Back in the day, the original nickname for it was Deaf Valley because you can't hear because the decimals reach were crazy. And so they just put in the TH to the F. It's Death Valley. I mean, it's when LSU beat Bama in 2022, the stadium was rocking so hard it set off the university seismograph for an earthquake. You can't make an argument. I mean, that's why it's in the top 5 for sure.
That's nuts. I mean, that's a much better analysis than what I said. But it's one of those things where it's like I think I hear about it so much that it's like I don't even know that I need to talk about it anymore because enough people already have. I'm going to throw a sleeper out here, and I'm not saying it's top 5 necessarily, but I just want to mention it.
Right.
I think Mississippi State and those
The
cowbells
Cowbells, man. Yeah.
are something different. I mean, we're
Something
talking about
maybe.
Mississippi. When you hear it, even on TV,
Man.
like it's obnoxious in the
But,
best way possible if you're a Mississippi State fan.
mhm.
I mean, oh my goodness.
Yeah. That's that kind of like I hinted at with the weather in Louisiana. That's something that the home team is used to, but the opponents, unless you're from the SEC, you gotta lock in and get on. Same thing Mississippi State, just in a different form. Them cowbells, you go deaf to it probably if you're a Michigan State or a Mississippi State Bulldog. But if you're coming from out of town, you're gonna be annoyed for 40 minutes of football or
Oh
however.
yeah, you're
You
having
know.
nightmares about them cowbells.
Exactly, man. Or 48 minutes of football. And so that's a great answer. I like that sleeper. Mississippi State is absolutely a crazy place to play. But yeah, I like that pick as a sleeper. I'll throw one out. I'm trying to think if I want to go SEC or Big Ten here, but I'll Tennessee Volunteers at Neyland Stadium. That's a
Yeah,
tough place to play football.
yeah.
And I mean, college Florida in a similar conversation. College football is better when Tennessee, Auburn, Florida, that kind of regime as good at college football. You know, it's a better game when they are. And I mean, you kind of saw it when Hendon
Yeah.
Hooker and those guys took on Bama, 2 years ago. That's you can't watch that game and tell me Tennessee is not top 10, top five atmosphere in the game.
Now, what did it for me was watching, and you're already gonna know, UGA in Tennessee,
Mm-hmm.
Jacob Eason. There was a beautiful ball,
Yep.
left hash. It's a touchdown. You think for sure Georgia's gonna win it. And Josh Dobbs throws up a prayer in the
Yep.
end zone. Like when I think of that stadium,
Mm-hmm.
that's the game I think of. Like, and obviously Peyton Manning, when he was there, that
Mm-hmm.
place was insane as well.
Yep.
But
And
I
before
think
you,
it has to be in the top five. I
yeah,
do.
I think
And
Tennessee's top.
I'm afraid that we're going to end up throwing mostly the SEC in this,
Oh
but
no,
it's hard not to.
I'm about to say I've got some Big Ten answers, and that kind of proves the point at why the Big Ten, the SEC are undoubtedly the platinum level of college football because of stuff like this. And so before I move on to another pick, I've got a funny story that who I talked about earlier, Carter Norman, about that game. It was freshman year. It was me and Carter's freshman year of high school homecoming, and we are in the back of some SUV. And we think same thing. We think the game Georgia. Let's go, baby. We go dogs. We beat a tough Tennessee team. And Carter hears that call of that Josh Dobbs throw, and he got out of that SUV and chunked his phone 40 yards, man. And I mean, yeah, oh my gosh. That's when, yeah, so I agree. I didn't forget about that moment. I still obviously have it in the brain, but yeah, that's a great reason to add Tennessee to the list because yeah, Neyland Stadium. I mean, I've been to similar to Tiger Stadium. I've been to Neyland Stadium, not on a game day. And man, you look up that wall and you see the steepness of that arena. You said you could come, these fans could pack it out and whisper, and your eardrum is going to bust in the middle of that field. I
Yeah.
mean, that is a crazy place to play football. That's a crazy place to do anything. It's a crazy place to walk to the top of the stairs. I mean, Tennessee Volunteers. I'm not a fan of them, but that orange is crazy and
And
that stadium is crazier.
I ain't gonna lie, that fool with the checkered end zone's heavy.
Yeah, absolutely. I like
Like
that. I like the
it
uniqueness.
looks so,
Yeah, I like the uniqueness of
it's a
it.
unique stadium.
Yeah,
I think I'll jump to the Big Ten.
there we go.
And you'll probably be shocked by this actually. I low key don't think that Ohio Stadium is in the top five
Okay.
because like it's a great atmosphere. I'm not saying it's not.
Right.
But after watching Michigan do what they did when them boys are playing at home,
Yeah.
especially with the team that
Yeah.
Ohio State had, it's hard for me
Yeah.
to just forget about that. And like, yeah, it is recency bias to a degree
Right.
because there's a whole history of Ohio State football that you have to remember.
Mm-hmm.
But man,
But yeah, it's when you're talking about top five, it's hard to say somebody's top five when they let their rival walk in and embarrass them in the crib and say that's a top five crib. That's so I get what you're saying there. Yeah, so I guess. So are you saying
is the
Michigan?
Big House top five?
I've got it on my list.
I
Now,
think it has to be.
I about to say, yeah, it's kind of, I mean, like you just said, what's the name of that stadium? Do we know? We call it the Big House because the stadium alone is that iconic. So
Yeah, it's the biggest stadium in college football.
yeah, I think I read it's the biggest stadium in America and it's the third biggest in the world.
Yeah.
And we got
So it's some
8-year-olds strapping up to play in it. That's tough. So,
yeah.
so, I think Michigan, we might throw them in the 5. I read something saying that like the way the stadium is built, like kind of the bottom tier of it is like dug underground. And so it just
Yeah.
have a way, which a lot of stadiums can go underground to a degree, but when the bottom part of it, the loudest part of it
Yeah.
is underground, that's physically helping your argument for a tough atmosphere.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. No, it's historic, obviously. Now, App State did run in there and
Yeah.
piece them up.
Yeah. And so, and that's
That
what year was that, D? What year was that?
I don't remember.
You want to call it like 2010-ish, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
That's if the thought of somebody beating you in your house embarrassingly is 14-ish years ago, I think your argument's
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's a
I
good
get what
point.
you're saying though. Yeah.
I think a lot of people would say Kyle Field,
Right.
at least SEC fans.
Mm-hmm.
I take Johnny Manziel away from Texas A&M,
Mm-hmm.
and then answer the question: is Kyle Field a top 5 college football atmosphere? That's how I look at it.
That's a good
And
take.
I don't know that the answer is yes. I think it's cool. Home of the 12th man, like
Right.
I get it, and it does get loud in there.
Mm.
But I'm putting Jordan Hare over Texas A&M personally.
Yeah, I've been to a lot of games at Jordan Hare. I can't remember the exact number. I think the year Cam Newton was there, I went to 4 home games. So that kind of gives me like a skewed outlook on it. But still, I went to one when they played Matt Corral at Ole Miss, Bo Nix and Auburn. That was a good game, real loud. Auburn won, crazy. Like I said, my mom was an Auburn grad. So shout out moms. I'll hear the argument for Jordan Hare in the top 5. And I get what you're saying comparing to A&M. If we're looking at straight atmosphere, then yeah, I think Jordan Hare competes with A&M. I think A&M just as a culture is really unique and really cool.
They've been getting trashed on with some of these memes lately.
Oh man, well, it's just because they're a hungry SEC team now, but they've got some great Big 12 tradition. So I like the kind of duality of it that it's not all from one stream. Like they've got benefits from both.
Yeah, that's true.
But so I get it. 12th man, Kyle Field. Everybody knows it's a tough place to play, but they're definitely, I think for the sake of this ranking, I think they're definitely on that borderline, in or out for sure. But yeah, I like the name though. I had them written down on my list.
Personally, I think I'm putting Jordan Hare in. Virginia Tech too.
That is
that's one that maybe a lot of people don't think about, but Enter Sandman.
Yeah,
that's one of the most iconic college football traditions there is, and it's probably the toughest to me.
I like the Tech. I like the Tech pick because that's a different one. That's one where Virginia Tech is not supposed to have a top 5 atmosphere, but they do. So I like that pick. Yeah, for the sake of uniqueness and not supposed to. If you're a school like Auburn or LSU or Michigan, you're supposed to be talked about. You got big budgets, you got big opportunity. But I like the Tech pick. Yeah.
It's full of tradition. I think that's what makes the college football atmospheres what they are. Mm-hmm. Is the traditions you have in place.
Right.
And Virginia Tech has held up. Yeah, and I pull for UV. I love Virginia, but
you about to move there.
I'm literally about to move there. Yeah. But I can't act like Virginia Tech. That place, especially, man, even watching on TV, when you look at that stadium, there's something about it, and I don't even know what it is, but it looks scary to play there.
Yeah.
It's kind of dark. It's not very bright.
Right. It's in Blacksburg, Virginia, bro. Like if the mayor of Blacksburg doesn't want you to get out of Blacksburg, I got a feeling you ain't leaving Blacksburg. I mean, like that is a island on land is what Blacksburg,
Yeah,
Virginia is. That's a great point. It is a scale.
yeah,
Yeah, I'd much rather play in Athens, Georgia than freaking Blacksburg, Virginia for sure.
yep.
Yeah.
I know that technically, like the most winning college football stadiums, because whenever I call one of the Georgia Southern football games, we had a graphic.
Yeah.
It's top 5 football stadiums, and it showed the record. Bear Bryant was number 1, I believe. I think Marshall was in the top 5.
Okay.
Bro, Paulson Stadium was in the top 5.
Let's do it. That's a great, yeah. That's number 5 on the list. Paulson Stadium, go Eagles. Yeah, I like that. That's a great pick.
I think Washington might
See,
have even been on that list.
there you go.
But I'm just thinking like places that are tough to play at when it comes to like the straight up record, like what the stats say.
Right.
I don't know that I want to put Bear Bryant at number or in the top 5.
Or put Bama into 5.
I'm not saying it's not,
Right.
but I don't know that the atmosphere is top 5. Like their football team
Right.
is number 1, but
Right.
it's their atmosphere top
'Cause
5.
that's I think with this conversation, like the best way to answer it properly is what stadiums affect the game the most. You know,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think that's the way to like properly word it. And in the
Yeah.
sake of in like the sense of Bama, that's quite I mean, like I respect the like record situation of like home field winning, whatever. But I mean, the reason Jordan-Hare Stadium's not on that list is because they're playing Bama, Mississippi State, Texas A&M, Ole Miss,
Right.
and everybody else every single year, and they're getting half of them at home, and so I mean, and then a Georgia every other year you're playing Georgia at home and XYZ. So, I mean, you're not going to win as many games as Washington because they're playing Washington State at home and Oregon State at home. It's the difference in the thing. But yeah, so I mean, I think let me just recap and kind of get back on the same page. I mean, so LSU,
Yeah.
we'll put them in there. We'll throw Michigan.
LSU, I say number 1.
Yeah, LSU won. Okay, let's think. Michigan, Tennessee, in Virginia Tech, maybe. What we thinking for that number 2 spot?
I think Michigan.
Okay. I'll tell you
It's hard for me to put Tennessee over them.
Right. I get that.
Because
and then we thinking for the rest of the 3, 4, 5. Are we saying Tennessee is definitely top 5?
Bro, there's still a piece of me that feels like, well, I guess we got one more spot left.
Mm-hmm.
I really think Jordan-Hare is up there.
Yeah. I'll go. Yeah.
Like when you think about tough place to play,
mm-hmm.
I mean,
right. I think my mama might repost this entire episode just because we're throwing Jordan-Hare in the top 5. Yes, I like that. Yeah.
Think about it. Like, think about all the games that they played, even when their football team was not very good.
Oh.
And you watch College Game Day, and it's like Alabama's light years better than them, and it's a rivalry. But they got to go to Jordan-Hare
every time. Auburn.
When Georgia and Georgia Tech play, ain't nobody saying that.
Oh man, if Auburn
now Georgia Tech obviously is not the caliber of Auburn or Bama, of course, but
for the sake. Well, here I'll put it like this: Auburn can be 0-9 or whatever you are before the last game of the year. They can be 0-9, and Jordan-Hare is going to rock over against Alabama. That's the thing. It's just I mean, like I said, I can speak with a little bit of experience being to a bunch of Auburn home games and some really good home games. I mean, yeah, Jordan-Hare in the top 5. I like that pick because they've earned it. They've lost a lot of games in Jordan-Hare, but they've won a lot of games because they're in Jordan-Hare.
So I'm thinking LSU,
mm-hmm.
Michigan,
yep,
Tennessee,
mm-hmm.
Virginia Tech,
okay,
Jordan-Hare.
Yeah,
because I love the point that we talked about with the Hokies.
Yep.
Bro, that team is – I can't even tell you the last time they were genuinely relevant in the sense of, like, talking about a big bowl game or a college football playoff. But, yeah, that stadium and that atmosphere is – like, man, you don't want to go there.
No, you
not want to play there.
But that's the thing. It's just there have been games that Virginia Tech the team is not going to win, but they won the game because the other team had to play in Blacksburg.
Yeah. Bro, I feel like we're probably missing some, and
Oh
I'm
yeah,
sure we'll get some comments like, "How could you forget about
right.
this?" But man, I think that top five, like all those places, rich in history,
Oh
tough
yeah.
to play at.
Yeah, but I say you can't look at our top five and say, oh, that ain't that place ain't that bad. Nah, it's tough places
I
to
mean,
play.
yeah, did we leave out Penn State? Yep.
Yep.
Did
Well,
we
and then
leave
again,
out
I'll say
Ohio
with Penn
State? Yep.
State because if somebody is, I know a couple guys. Shout out to the Vecchio brothers that are big Penn State fans. I think I have Penn State on my list, but I also put an asterisk by Penn State on my list because there's whiteout Penn State and there's every other day Penn
And
State.
exactly. I'm with you, bro. Like,
You know,
I'm sorry, but if your whole and I don't I don't know this for sure, but obviously the whiteout is always the big game for Penn State, and it's dope. Like
well, it's
it's a
awesome.
crazy atmosphere.
It's awesome.
I watched a ton of
Whiteout.
Ohio State and Penn State games
Mhm.
in that atmosphere, but I don't remember hearing about a Penn State game at home that's not a whiteout in I don't know how long.
Right. Well, and I'll say this too. It's kind of like when people get into the, oh, what's the top five NBA players? And they're like, oh, untucked jersey Kyrie, oh, face mask LeBron, whatever. Now, is whiteout Penn State in the top five? Yes, sir.
100%.
Yes, sir. But
100%.
like I said about the superstars earlier, can't be a superstar one game a year. You got to be a superstar every game of the year when you're at home. And
That,
and the
that's a
players
great
that
way.
are on our top five, that's a tough place to play every single time there's a game in it.
Yep. I feel good in it. I like it.
There we go. Well, I think that I'm out of segments, Devo. I think we at the end of the road here.
And I want to say we've almost clocked 2 hours, and
Yeah.
this is the first episode. Like, it's only up from here. I've had a blast doing this, man. And for those of you that are watching, obviously this is the first episode, so I don't know how many are even going to watch this. But
Yeah.
if you got any ideas, if you love something, if you hated something, let us know.
Yeah.
Like, we're
And I
just
might
trying to
care,
we're
I
just
might
trying to
not
have fun
care.
with it. It's called the lunch table for a reason.
Okay. You
I
said, could you
when you were in
imagine
middle
if
school,
could you imagine back at Tiff County High School if they would have given us a 2 hour lunch, we would have still filled it with talk.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So, man, for real, any ideas, let us know. Um, I've been, I've called a lot of games and I get excited about it, but I haven't been this excited about doing
Yeah,
something like this in a while. And
exactly.
bro, it's been great.
Yeah. No, that's it. Well, good. Thank you. If you did watch to the end of this episode, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Tune in the future. Stay engaged because you got to think this episode one, me and Davo came up with the title of this thing about 2 days ago, and we already in here talking. So it's
Yep.
if this is the ground floor, I think we'll be all right. Y'all keep engaging, keep tuning in, tell your mama, your daddy,
Yep.
your cousin, anybody if they know how to spell sport, send them the link, get them tapped in, and we'll keep talking.
Facts. Hey, we're talking about NCAA 25 next episode. And
Show.
I know everybody, especially
Yeah,
that's going to be watching our podcast, is getting that game.
go ahead. Good deal. Well, thank
Hey,
y'all for tuning in. This is Chabo and Davo at the Lunch Table Podcast, episode one. We appreciate you guys. Come back and see us. All love.
peace.